Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yugioh Everything, and welcome back to another anime versus manga character analysis, the series where I take a character from the Yu-Gi-Oh universe and break down their anime persona and manga persona. On the table today, we have everyone's favorite Yu-Gi-Oh mom, Yuzu Hiragi, the leading girl of the Arc 5 anime, and whatever you want to call her in the Arc 5 manga. Just a quick reminder, since it's been a long time since I've done this series, I am going to go over Yuzu's role in the Arc 5 anime, the manga, discuss some similarities and differences between the two adaptations of her, go over her deck briefly, and then give a final conclusion as to which version of her I liked more. Please let me know which version of Yuzu you enjoyed more down below as well. Without further ado, let's begin. I hope you all enjoy. Yuzu Hiragi was the main girl of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 anime. She was one of 4 counterparts which made up Rei Akaba, the daughter of Leo Akaba, before the world was split into 4 dimensions. When the world was split, Rei and Zark were split into 4 people, each one representing a different summoning method and, in turn, dimension. Ruri represented the Xyz dimension, Rin represented Synchro, Serena Fusion, and Yuzu Standard. I think it's safe to say Yuzu had a pretty strong crush on Zark's standard dimension form, Yuya Sakaki, from a pretty early on timestamp during the show. She gets very angry when Yuya tells Sora he would never have feelings for a woman like her and smacks him with her fan. The romance between these two became more and more apparent as the series went on, and while the relationship between these two helped them flourish early on, I feel that as the series went on, Yuzu became more of a damsel in distress than a strong duelist. The relationship between these two reminded me a little bit of Aki and Yusei from 5Ds. Backtracking, the early stages of Arc 5 were very promising for Yuzu from a character and from a dueling perspective. She accomplished something no other girl protagonist has ever done. In episode 2, she actually defeated our main protagonist Yuya, albeit it was due to Yuya not remembering how to pendulum summon, but hey, a win is a win. Yuzu was dueling Yuya in an effort to recruit people to join the Yugioh Duel School, a school that was run by her father. The school was a much smaller and kind of a rival to the massive Leo Duel School. This school rivalry would actually be the cause of Yuya's first and pretty much only rival throughout her dueling character arc, a girl named Masumi Katsu. Masumi did wonders for Yuzu's character, as the two would square off on 2 different occasions in high-pressure settings. We will get back to this rivalry in just a little bit, but it's important to note that Masumi was a big reason as to why Yuzu wanted to become a stronger duelist and person in general. Upon losing to Masumi, not understanding the whole Yuto/Yuya look-alike thing, and seeing Yuya's determination to get stronger, Yuzu decided she wanted to learn how to fusion summon, which she felt would take her to that next dueling plateau. She pleaded for Sora to teach her, he obliged, and thus, Yuzu would become Fusion Scum. Yuzu quickly realized that fusion summoning was synonymous with the enemy, as Yuto told her this while she was chasing Masumi down an alley. Confused about a lot of different aspects of her life, the Miami Championship began, and Yuzu's first match was against who else but Masumi. Everything Yuzu had learned and fought vigorously for paid off, as she was able to defeat Masumi, who she embarrassingly lost to a few days prior with her dad's school on the line. Masumi finally gave Yuzu credit and humbly accepted her loss. Yuzu would go on a bit of a hot streak after this win. She would win against Mikiyu Naname, which granted her access to the Battle Royale section of the tournament. During the Battle Royale, she would team up with Gangenzaga to defeat Halil and Elsa. The winning streak came to a halt when she took on undercover spy for Academia, Dennis, who defeated her without revealing his true identity. But that's okay. Through 44 episodes, Yuzu has gotten good focus, some really good duels, and a lot of respectable results. Unfortunately, episode 47 was when things took a turn for the worse in my opinion. That's right, episode 47 featured Yuzu versus Yuri. Yuri was the fusion counterpart of Yuya and completely humiliated Yuzu in this duel. We don't even get to see any scenes from the duel itself. All we see is Yuzu cowering from Yuri, crying behind a cliffside wall. The duel, if you even want to call it a duel, made out Yuri to be a dominant force, but this decision almost single-handedly killed all of the momentum Yuzu's character had gotten up until this point. She was bailed out thanks to Yugioh, the synchro counterpart of Yuya, and accidentally transported the two of them to the synchro dimension. In the synchro dimension, Yuzu would become close with Yugioh, and the two of them would witness Yuya's defeat at the hands of Jack Atlas, which prompted them to join the Friendship Cup. Yuzu would take on Enjoy Chojiro in the first round of the Cup, where much like in the Miami Miami Championship, she would win. This was probably peak entertainment duelist Yuzu, as she really wowed the audience and sent a strong message in support of Yugioh, all while defeating Enjoy. Yuzu was desperate to talk to Yugioh, as the two had been separated for a good amount of time. In order to do that, she would need to defeat her next opponent, Sergei. Unfortunately, Sergei was an absolute machine, quite literally. Sergei would defeat Yuzu and for kicks, send her flying through a building, humiliating her and making an example out of her. Yuzu luckily survived, as Jean-Michel Raget quickly sent forces towards the crash site in an effort to capture her. Her former teacher, Sora, who was going through his own inner struggles debating what side to fight for, managed to save her before the Obelisk Force showed up. Unfortunately, Yuzu would fall victim to Sergei once again, as he managed to take her after defeating Yugioh and fly her back to Raget's headquarters. Yuzu was handcuffed and forced to watch Jack vs. Sergei with Raget, as she was being used as a bargaining chip. After Raget declared martial law in Neo Domino City, Yuzu would have a real badass moment and physically knock Jean to the ground, making her own announcement to the city. She attempted to plead with the citizens, believing that rioting was not the best cause of action, but Raget shoved her out of the way and cut off the broadcast. Yuzu would temporarily be rescued again, this time by Sora and Tsukikage, before Raget beat both of them in a duel and recaptured Yuzu. You guys kind of picking up on a theme here? Raget would finally permanently be defeated by Akiba Reiji, and Yugioh swung in to catch and save Yuzu. Yuzu would share a really sweet moment with Yugioh before being separated from him once again via an interdimensional wormhole. She was sent to the fusion dimension, where she immediately ran into problems. 3 officers chased her down and attempted to apprehend her before Asuka, Alexis Rhodes, stepped in and saved her, defeating the juvenile officers. Yuzu would soon reunite with Yugioh, the man who helped create Yusho Duel School, and the man who happened to be Yugioh's father. It wouldn't take long before Yuzu was once again kidnapped, this time by a brainwashed Serena, and taken to Leo Akaba at his Fusion Dimension headquarters. While in a holding cell, Yuzu would be brainwashed via a bug, but unlike Rin, Rory, and Serena, she would not duel under this state. Eventually, she would be freed of her brainwashing and would be forced to watch Yugioh and Reiji take on Leo. During this duel, Yuzu would be absorbed into Arc 5 as Leo attempted to fuse the 4 girls to bring back Rei. After the Zark fiasco and the final few episodes of the show, Yuzu finally reappeared in the final 60 seconds of the series, where she embraced Yugioh and told him she was finally home. Writing out this script was pretty eye-opening. It is crazy to me how much independence Yuzu had in the first year of the show, and how quickly she was reduced to a damsel. Yuzu had a mere 2 duels in the final 101 episodes of the show, and did not duel a single time in the last 71 episodes of the anime. That is insane. She was kidnapped by different people more times than she dueled in the last 100 episodes. It's a shame what happened to all of her great deposition in the first couple of story arcs. Personally, I think her losing Masumi as a rival, and not really having another rival duelist, really hurt her character from a dueling perspective. But that's enough about Yuzu's anime profile for now. Let's take a look at Yuzu's role in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 manga. This section will be much more brief and much more bizarre than her anime profile. Yuzu had the same father in the manga as she did in the anime, Shuzo Hiragi. The big difference right off the bat is that she worked for the Shuzo Duel School, a dueling school that was struggling to stay above the waters financially. Yuzu devised a plan to recruit the mysterious entertainment duelist referred to as Phantom, which was of course Yuya Sakaki. Yuzu was much less mature and much more money-oriented and greedy in this adaptation, as she was constantly shown to be plotting various ways to become rich and bring money into the school. Yuzu played the role of cheerleader in the Arc 5 manga, constantly following and supporting Yuya, Yuto, Yuri, and Yugioh throughout their journey. She kind of reminded me of a Kotadi in terms of the support and the non-dueling role she played. She definitely was a comedic relief point in a lot of the scenes, especially during her interactions with Shingo and Shun. She had flirtatious moments with most of the U-boys, which definitely makes the big reveal about her character at the end of the story a little more eyebrow-raising. Yuzu goes the entire manga without dueling, and has an interesting exchange with Yuya at the end of the story. She tries to tell Yuya that she loves him, when Yuya interrupts her and says the two of them will be reunited soon, much to Yuzu's confusement. Moments later, Yuzu meets a young duel-tainer who turns out to be Yusho Sakaki, Yuya's father. Since time travel was prevalent in the story, the logistics of it work, and Yuzu turned out to be the mother of Yuya, Yugioh, Yuri, and Yuto. Yeah, safe to say this plot twist was not loved by many, but Yuzu is the mother of the U-Boys in the manga. I mean, I guess you can view the story of the Arc 5 manga as a mother and her children fighting against evil to save the world, but the romantic cues thrown throughout the scales definitely make it a little more, I mean, Back to the Future did it, and that's viewed as one of the best movies ever, so it's definitely not an uncommon trope, but it's one that I never thought we would see done in a Yu-Gi-Oh story. Besides looks and character designs, there really aren't many similarities between the two versions of Yuzu. The main similarity that I can think of was her attachment to Yugioh. A lot of what she did in the anime and the manga revolved around what Yugioh was doing. She had feelings for Yugioh in both stories. In the manga, it was more from a motherly love perspective, and in the anime, it was from a romantic perspective. She also worked at a dueling school, which was a main focus of hers. Recruiting students for the school was a pretty important motivator for her character in the anime and the manga verse. But besides those, there really aren't many noteworthy similarities. She was very different in the anime and the manga, so let's take a look at those differences. The first major difference has to be personality. Yuzu is much more mature and selfless in the anime than in the manga. Using the word greed to describe her anime persona would be really hard to justify, but it would probably be one of the best describing words you could give her when discussing her manga persona. In the anime, she is a part of Rei, who is Leo Akaba's daughter. In the manga, she was the 4 U-Boys' mother, so her family tree is incredibly different in both pieces of media. Another major difference is her role in each story. It's hard to play a major role in a Yu-Gi-Oh story if you don't play the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And while Yuzu was a solid duelist in the first third of Arc 5, she did not duel a single time in the manga, which is even more absurd when you remember she ran a dueling school with her father. Whether she didn't know how to duel or we just never saw her duel remains to be seen, but the fact that her manga self never picked up the duel disc was a big shift from what we saw her do in the anime. You will honestly be hard-pressed to find many Yu-Gi-Oh characters who have this much of a difference in terms of personality and role in the story, but unfortunately for Yuzu, the role she had in the manga was very cheerleader-esque than her anime role, which was much more hands-on. Yuzu's deck profile is pretty simple, considering we don't even need to look at her manga version for this segment. In the anime, Yuzu used an archetype called Melodious. Melodious monsters take the form of humanoid women, and usually reference some sort of musical theme on their design. The playstyle of this deck focuses on special summoning, in an effort to spam the field with as many effect melodious monsters as possible. After training with Sora and learning fusion summoning, Yuzu was able to add some fusion melodious monsters to her deck. Besides the few fusion monsters she used, Yuzu strictly relied on effect monsters and used no other special summoning method throughout the show. One of her best and most lethal cards is easily Bloom Diva, the Floral Melodious Saint. Yeah, another thing about this archetype is how much of a mouthful a lot of these card names are. Bloom Diva's effect goes off anytime it battles a special summoned monster, which happens quite often. Bloom Diva cannot be destroyed, but your opponent's monster is auto-destroyed, and your opponent takes any damage you would have taken. So if Bloom Diva attacks your Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, you lose your Blue Eyes Ultimate, Bloom Diva does not get destroyed, and you take 3,500 points of damage. Yeah, it's a really solid card. Definitely one of the best in Yuzu's deck. In terms of pure strength, Yuzu's Prodigy Mozart the Melodious Maestra, amazing name by the way, leads the pack with 2,600 attack. Now it's time for me to give my pick on which version of Yuzu Hiragi I enjoyed more, and honestly, it's really not that close. I absolutely prefer Yuzu in the anime than in the manga. Even though her character went ice cold the last practically 100 episodes of Arc 5, it's hard to ignore how good she was written the first year of the anime. Her anime persona has depth that her manga persona doesn't even come close to reaching, and ultimately, she was just a nicer person in the anime than in the manga. I find maturity to be calming, and it's very rare when I enjoy a character who has greedy, selfish traits, especially one that is not playing an antagonistic role in the story. Moreover, Yuzu actually dueled in the anime. She had rivalries, wants, goals, a good character arc. I mean, I really feel like this one isn't close. Unfortunately, the Mama Yuzu plot twist in the manga was not enough to propel her to the best version of her character in this comparison, and I will take anime Yuzu any day of the week over her manga counterpart. And that about wraps it up. Thank you all so much for watching another anime versus manga analysis, the first Arc 5 one we have done, which again is for Yuzu Hiragi, the leading girl of the Arc 5 anime and the Arc 5 manga. Big thank you to Anonymous Animelover for requesting this video. She is a major supporter of the channel, and I just cannot thank her enough. So big thanks to her for this video idea. Thanks to all of you for watching. Please let me know your favorite version of Yuzu down below. Let me know some duels you wish Yuzu might have gotten at the end of the show. I know Yuzu versus Yugioh, if she was brainwashed or not, would have been a really cool one to get at the end. But let me know some dream Yuzu duels you guys would have liked to see. A special thank you to my Platinum tier patrons Lexa Baker, Glen McGookin, Jorge Carrillo, James Rose, Horace Maye, Goosey Q, Vincent Van Der Veen, Panther J, Smith620, FrostReaper, Jorge Leon, and Blue Maiden 28, and to my Diamond tier patrons Jesse Wood, Latrell Smith, and Sean, and to my Egyptian God tier patrons Joss Rivers and Melinda Phantom. Thank you to everyone who supports me on Patreon and is a channel member. It helps me out immensely. And thank you to everyone who just watches these videos, because without you guys, I would not be able to do this. Thank you all so much for watching. I will talk to you down below, and I hope you have an amazing day.